After you've installed and enabled the SceneCity add-on, you will find all of its settings in the Scene options. And then you have a few panels created. And we'll see the options in detail, but let's start by generating a default city. And you start in the SceneCity Roads panel. Click on the Generate Roads button. After a very short time, you'll see in your scene a road network. And it should look like this. Then you click on the Generate Buildings button. And after a while, you will see the buildings correctly placed and aligned on the different roads portions. And the city is ready for rendering if you switch to the rendered mode. You will see that everything is correctly set up and you can further customize your city if you want. If you have Scene Terrain installed and enabled, you can also use it to put the city on a terrain. By default, if you create a city, it will be built on a flat area, even though this area doesn't exist. I mean, visually, the city is still built on a virtual flat surface that you can create yourself. If you want the terrain, you can go to the Scene Terrain Shape Presets panel and you click on the Generate Terrain button. I suggest to watch the video about how to use Scene Terrain to understand all of its options. Next, you have to recreate the city to fit on the newly created terrain. So you start with the roads, and every time you click on the Generate Roads button, the generator will try to put the roads on the flat surface of the terrain, and it's randomly placed, so you can try a few times until you find a network that fits the terrain like you'd like. When you have the roads, generate the buildings. This can take some time with large road networks like this one, and this is mostly due to how Blender handles object in the scene. The more objects, the longer it takes to add a new one. So this looks like a very nice city for a start. Don't also forget to generate the material, the terrain material. And there it is. Now if we switch to rendered mode, we should see the terrain and the city correctly set up. A city in SceneCity is organized in several ways for you to better keep the things neatly separated. First, they are placed on different layers. So on the layer that was active at the time you generated the city, you'll have everything, the roads and the buildings. On layer number 2, you will have the terrain if you created a terrain. On layer number 3, you will have the road network, and on layer number 4, the buildings only. Then the second way the city is organized is by groups, object groups. So all the road objects, all the buildings, the building objects are in 2 groups, in the SceneCity group and in the SceneCity buildings only group. And this can be, you can use the outliner here and see all the different groups. So here you have the SceneCity group, SceneCity buildings only, and you have also the SceneCity roads only. So if I select a road portion, like this one for instance, you can see it's part of two groups, SceneCity and SceneCity roads only. And the last way the city is organized is here in the outliner. You can see all the objects are children of two objects, the SceneCity roads object, so that you can move all the roads if you want, and you can also scale them. And the same for the buildings. The same for the buildings. They're all children of an empty object, so you can scale them and move them as you like. Now let's see the different options in more detail. In the general options panel, you have the scale option. If you have a terrain in your scene, you will see that it is automatically detected, and that by default the city will have the same scale as the terrain. If you disable this checkbox, then you can set the city scale here, and also the next city will not follow the terrain anymore, just as if the terrain didn't exist. So this scale is the default starting scale of these two parent objects, so the SceneCity buildings object and the SceneCity roads object. Of course, afterwards you can still scale them as you like. The roads have a few settings. First, you have the city size, and this controls the number of 10-meter blocks on each side. So the larger this setting is, the bigger your city can potentially be. So for example, if I generate a road, let's change it to something very small, like 10, and if I generate the roads, then you can see that first I have the use terrain disabled, so that's why the roads are not following the terrain. Let's remove the terrain so we can better see what's going on. So that means that the city now will be built on a flat plane of 10 times 10 meters on each side. So it's a quite small city. It's only 100 meters on each side. If I increase it to 20, then we have 200 meters long on each side, and so on. Now you should be careful not to increase this value too high, otherwise the generation will work, but it will take a very long time. You can see the progress here in the console, so I suggest you keep it open when you generate cities and terrains in SceneCity, so that if Blender is hanging and it looks like it's about to crash, or it has a bug or anything, then you look into this window, and if this window is still updating, that means that nothing's wrong. Everything is just taking time to generate, and this is because we cannot update the Blender interface while the add-on is working. Also, the city size setting is ignored when you check the use terrain button. If you use the terrain, then the city will just follow the terrain and try to fill as much as possible the terrain as it can. The next parameter is the random seed. So if you watched the scene terrain video, you already know what it is. Otherwise, this just lets you have the same road network, and you also have the same parameter here for the buildings. So if you keep it at 0, then you have a different road network every time. If you set it to any other value, then the network will be the same. The maximum length of the roads parameter is self-explanatory. You control how long your roads can be at the maximum. And what we call road is a straight line. So if you reduce it, let's say to 100, let's use the seed number 1, for example. So this is what 100 gives us. Let's put it at 200, and you can see it's longer, 500. Well, the city size is quite small, so I'll make it bigger. And at 500 meters for every road, the city should take most of the area. If I set it to a small value, like 50 meters, then you can see that it stays quite small. And also when you have a terrain, it's very useful to have longer roads. Let's generate a default terrain. And if I generate the roads, let's try another network. Oh, I didn't check the use terrain checkbox. Like this. So this is what we have with those settings. But if I make the road much longer, like let's say 500, then the road network will take a lot more space in the on the terrain. So this one was not so good. Yes, this one is a better example. So right now the road network takes all of this available space here, but if I reduce it to 200, then as you can see, it stops. The road stops before going anywhere else. The second parameter here is the amount of crossroads, and it's in percentage. That means that for by default it's set at 10%, and that means that for every road portion, the road portion is an object like this. So you can see that the roads and the buildings are objects, and the roads are made of portions. And at 10%, that means for every 10 portions, then it's very likely that you'll have a new road growing perpendicularly to the existing one. So basically, it's simple to understand. The higher this setting, the more crossroads you'll have. So let's say now we want at 50% generate the roads. So it takes longer to generate. That means that we will have a lot of roads now. So I hope it won't be too long. Yes, here it is. So we can see that the crossroads are much more happen a lot more frequently. The buildings options are few, and I will add a lot more in the next version 0.9. But right now you have the random seed. So once you have a road network, you generate the buildings, and if you leave the seed at 0, you can generate the buildings again, and they will be different. I mean, they will be placed differently, but you always have the same building models. If you use a seed other than 0, then the buildings will be placed the same way every time. And the amount of buildings is a percentage, and it's also self-explanatory. If you increase it to 100, then you have the maximum amount of buildings possible. That means that there is the city generator will try to fill as much space as possible with the buildings. If you decrease it, let's say to 50%, then it will try to fill about half the space with buildings, and the buildings will be smaller as well. Now let's see how we can customize the building models, the road models, and the materials. Right now it is not really easy to do it, but I will show you anyway. Keep in mind that in the next version, 0.9, I will make it a lot easier. You won't have to do what we are going to do now. Okay, it will be possible right in the user interface. But at the moment, you have to go to the add-on folder. And this is how the add-on works. Every time you hit the generate roads and generate buildings button, the add-on imports all of these models in your current opened blend file. And these models exist in other blend files as well. And these blend files are located in the add-on folder. So this is what we are going to do. We're going to open those blend files, modify them as we want, save them, and then see the changes in action when we generate a city. So let's do it. First, you need to know where your add-on folder is located. So if you go to File, User Preferences, go to the Add-ons tab, then you search for Scene. You should see SceneCity here, and look into this file line. This is where you should go. So next you open this folder, and you will see all the files that make the add-on. Okay, then you have here this folder, models. And you have all the buildings, you have some props, and all the roads, models. And here in the root folder of the add-on, you have the materials.blend file. This is the library of materials that all these models use. So first of all, if you want to change the materials, you go here. Let me resize my window. You go here and you'll find all the materials organized by name. You have different kinds of bricks, of concrete, and a few types of glass. So you can choose them, modify them. They are available both for Cycles and Blender internal. Then don't forget to save the file. But before you do that, I suggest you do a copy by copying and pasting. Rename it to something else, like mine is in French, but you can keep another one like this, or you can name it or put this file in any other location you want. Just make sure you keep it, just in case you make a mistake or you want to bring back the default materials that were bundled with the add-on. And you should do also the same for the models folder. You can either copy and paste the entire folder, or copy and paste the building or the road you want to modify. You can also zip it, like I'm using 7-zip, so I can press it, and if I ever make a mistake now, or if I want to bring back my old models, I can still unzip this file. So I'm going to keep it just in case I make a mistake during this video. So let's go into the models, and for example, let's try the first building. So here you can see you have one of the buildings that make the cities, and it's just a standard Blender object. You can modify it, you can change it any way you like, but there are a few things a few rules to follow if you want the add-on, if you want SceneCity to to take your mesh and your object into account. First, this is a group of objects. So all of these objects are grouped in the in this group, building underscore 1 by 1. So 1 by 1 means it's 10 meters by 10 meters. You have other types of buildings. You have bigger ones like here. 2 by 2 means 20 meters by 20 meters. And you have up to 4 by 4. So first, yes, you have to group all the objects you want to be part of the building. Group them under this name for this particular building. Okay. Next, when you modify this building, you can do anything you want, but you have to keep it really 10 by 10. So it's in Blender units and it's centered around 0. So from -5 here to +5 on both the X and Y axis, you can do anything in these bounds. If you go beyond those bounds, then when you have your city, the buildings will collide with each other. And that's it. Let's try to make a modification. For instance, if I don't know, if I make it really tall, like this. Let's exaggerate the height of this building so we can see that our modification has been taken into account. Oh, that's a very high and skinny building, isn't it? So if I bring this back to the top like that, yes, here it is. You notice also you can also render the file while you're working on it. You can add any objects like the lamps, for instance. Since they're not part, as you can see here, they're not part of any group, or at least not part of this group. Then they won't be imported when you generate the city, and it's all fine. Okay, so that's it. I have my giant ugly building ready. I saved the file. I don't want this building, right? But remember, I saved the file in my zip file before, so I will restore it afterwards. So I save it. I keep it open, but I move the window away. And let's see if that works. For the changes to take effect, you have to open a new file and start with a blank scene. So if I go down here and generate the roads, then generate the buildings, now you can see that we have our friend, the giant skinny building. So it's here and it's ready to be used. So you can do the same for any other building. Also, you cannot add new buildings. You have to use all of those, no more and no less. I say it again, in the next version you won't have to do all of that, and you will be able to use any number of buildings, including the ones included in the add-on and the ones of your own, the one you make. Okay, for the roads, basically it's the same idea with the roads. So let me resize this like that. And for the roads, they are always 10 meters by 10 meters. Every road portion is 10 meters by 10 meters. For now, later I will add, you'll be able to use larger roads with more than just 2 lanes. You'll have highways and 3x3, 4x4, but for now we are limited to 10 meters by 10 meters road portions. So just like the buildings, make sure you don't go beyond this the limits of the object, but except from that, you are free to do anything you want. So the idea is the same. You have to keep all the objects you want to be part of that road portion grouped into the name of this group in the file. Okay, so this is an object. You have another one here, also part of the group, another one here, also part of the group. You can add other things if you want, other props on the sides. Another important thing for the roads is that they must fit together like the pieces of a puzzle. Okay, so this is the file called road 1x1 number 1 straight. You also have intersect 4. This is the part that will be used when you have a crossing. Okay, in each of the 4 directions, right? And you also have the dead end and the intersect 3. Okay. So when you modify them, for instance, if you want to make, I don't know, if you want to make it to make this part a little bit higher, like this, then you have to make sure that in this file, in this one, it is also at the same height. So you'll have to do like this, take the exact measurement, the exact height here, and use the same for this part as well as this part. So I think now you're getting you're starting to get the idea. Just make sure that all the road portions in any kind of combination can be put together without any seam. So in the end, the illusion is made that we have one continuous road and crossings and things like that.